Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of the Card Table. Actually, episode 3, part 2, presented by Competitive Cards United, the place where you can talk about any competitive card game you want, whether it is a trading card game like Yu-Gi-Oh!, Vanguard, Digimon, or a competitive card game, or a collectible card game like Hearthstone or Shadowverse, or even one of those board game-esque card games that allows you to play competitively, such as Seven Wonders or Marvel's Villainous. So for the card table so far, we are going to be talking about games that I have personal experience in, which are Yu-Gi-Oh!, Hearthstone, and Morgana. And as you know, there's more of a following, more regular uploading. It's going to be cover other card games such as Pokemon, Digimon, these card games that I am not too familiar with, but have the research and have the following and the guests that can enlighten me enough and talk about those topics. So this is the part two of my third episode that I recorded last week with Jake. We had a lot of audio issues, and Twitch changed their regulations for VODs, which you can only have VODs for 7 days now. They must have changed that a couple months ago. So sad time. So I need to re-upload a third episode regarding Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm here with Tyler Bendel. He is a very competitive Yu-Gi-Oh player. I met him the at my second top, my what I would consider my actual only top of a regional. He was playing Cashier during Tier Zero format, and as far as I know him, he has a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh accolades. So Tyler, if you want to introduce yourself, your start to Yu-Gi-Oh, anything you could give us.
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name's Tyler Bendel. If you guys watch any of the streams for that Konami puts on for YCS or any events like that, I'm the guy that is head to toe covered in I am Knuff stuff. So that's where you'll probably have known my face from. I got my start in Yu-Gi-Oh back when I was honestly a kid. I mean, I played the card games. I got the Hybrid Structure deck, all that. But I didn't start playing quote unquote competitively until Rescue Rabbit wind up format. Ended up taking a very extended break for pretty much right as Pendulum started becoming the newest mechanic. I took a break just for college, marriage, moving out, things that you have to do as an adult when you don't want to be an adult. Um, Came back into the game around when Tri Brigades were one of the best decks. They still had Zodiac cards. Virtual World was a deck. Um, Things like those that kind of meta. But I didn't really start picking up my competitive side again until Tier Element format. Past that, I've topped, I want to say about 7 or 8 regionals. I've not trying to gloat. I've honestly lost count at this point. Um, so I've won a couple regionals with Kashtira. That used to be my bread and butter. Then moved over to Labyrinth for a while, and then um, recently got top 8 at the team YCS in Las Vegas this past year, playing Voiceless Voice. I was one of the 8 mad lads who decided not to play Fire at that event. Um, so I don't know how we did it, but
Your
we
entire
did.
team was not. I mean, Chance was on fire, but I don't even
It
consider
wasn't
that.
really
It was
Fire.
Rescue Ace. I actually,
Yeah,
yeah, I messaged him about that deck, and I tried playing it, and I'm like, he must have been opening up custom hands because I was getting hand trap left, right, center, and I could not make that deck work. Even if you did like the SP lines to dodge all the hand traps, they would just wait, and I couldn't figure out how to make the deck work. So he definitely piloted
it,
that to perfection.
oh god, it was hilarious actually getting to watch him play it like there because him and I play tested so much the day before the weeks leading up to it. Um, but it was hilarious actually watching him play it there because right before the event, we had kind of lucked out in a sense, is I guess how I'm going to put it. Essentially, when we had gotten to Philly for our flight, um, we all pretty much had a good idea of what we wanted our decks to look like and everything, had a strong basis. Um, and we ran into Christian Urena, and his girlfriend, and Edgar, and we had run into them in the airport, and we're like, "Hey, do you guys want to go grab some lunch when we land in Vegas?" And Urana didn't have a place to stay, so he ended up staying with us for a couple of days, play testing, and through him, we learned like what cards not to be playing, and it was great because we were on Super Poly at the time, and Chance had flown in a day or two after we did. So I had to take all the information I had learned from Urana, move it over to Chance, and basically teach him. He had never done Zealantis combo before that event. Um, Obviously, no, people were still learning what Zealantis combo was at the
Yeah.
time, but he had never even done it. He had went for it once that I remember. It was like round 5, and he completely botched it, but it didn't matter. I was rushing him because he had like a minute left in time, and it didn't matter that he killed him. It didn't matter that he did damage, and we had to use Zealantis to get the monster off the board.
Yeah, I
So
remember. Yeah, I was watching your feature match, and his opponent had no idea what the fuck was going on, and I feel like he messed up the Zealantis OTK there, but it's just like like opponents then knew how it happened, so they just scoop before anything happens, and it's just over.
yeah.
I think there was some dispute on that, but yeah, that was wild, and yeah, I picked up Rescue Ace, and now I picked up your Voiceless Voice deck, and now eventually I move on to Fluanderies like Jared.
Oh, please don't say that.
I'm not
Don't say
going
that. I'll leave this right now.
to. I hate Shifter as much as everybody else, even though I played Exorcister one time.
It was.
Um,
It's not even Shifter. It's M Pen. Like Shifters, and I'll say that's a quote unquote necessary evil if we have to. I hate M Pen with all of my being. That card can
M-Pen
die.
does lose to a couple cards, but it's very another strong floodgate in monster field. Kind of crazy, and it
Yeah.
dodges everything. You just summon another one. But yeah,
Oh god,
actually,
I hate it.
took a very similar break to myself. I quit Pendulum format as well. I quit on Necroz's release. I played like a little bit of that, and then I came
Hmm.
back. Now I took a longer break than you did. I came back in 2022 with the release of Dimension Force. So that was based and all that. But yeah, we have very similar timelines. Um, but yeah, so you have had very many accolades. And just about a month ago, we had YCS Indy, and we were both at YCS Indy. I don't think we performed very well. I was out of YCS Indy by round 7, playing Voiceless Voice Melodious. I don't know how you did in Indy. I know you did not make. I don't think you made day 2,
I
but
made day
you
2.
made day 2.
Yeah, I had lost round 1, which is never how you want to start your day, but I had actually lost to his name's Bruce Menard. He, as of last I checked, he should be a lock in for the World's Points playoff. Um, he was 17th at Indy, and actually for like the longest last couple of weeks, it was a three-way tie for 16th, 15th through 17th between him, Steven Santoli, and Cam Neal. So it was he was my first opponent, and I had actually played. No, he was a good friend of mine before the event, so we knew who each other were. We knew each other's decks, so I knew I had a good tiebreaker. I won out the rest of the day up until the last round. I played against Sebastian Todd. I think he's like Deadly or Deathly on DB. He was high rated on Dueling Book for God knows how long. Um, and it was actually, I think, the most defeating loss I've ever had to somebody. I win the die roll, and my hand was absurd. It was like, um, Diviner, Nib, Effect Veiler, um, Pot of Prosperity, and uh, Blessing. Not
Pretty
Blessing,
good hand.
Barrier.
Pretty good
Yeah,
hand.
it was an insane hand. I was like, all right, let's start working through this stuff. Let's activate Barrier. He goes, go Soger. I was like, all right, got that out of the way. Knew that was happening. All right, let's start with Pot of Prosperity. Let's see if I can find some backup for this Diviner. He goes Ash Blossom. I was like, all right, let's see if this Diviner rolls. Diviner effect, Imperm. I was like, okay, good talk, good talk. Then I pass turn. He goes normal summon Snake Eye Ash. I was like, all right, naturally effect failure. Then he goes Talents, draw two. It's like, oh, great. He drew Wanted and Bonfire. I was like, oh yes, you're better than me.
Hand traps are the best. Hand traps are the best.
Yeah. And then game two was almost an exact repeat. And I'm the kind of person that if I lose, I will accept every loss that is um I'll always accept a loss. The things I hate losing to most is when I wish a card in my deck was different. But even in games that felt like completely unwinnable, I go back and ask, could there have been something I could have done better?
Yeah.
Could I have won that game? And, I'm talking to him because I already knew who he was before that event. He's a very well known, respected player. I was like, could I have ordered that differently? Could I have done that better? And he goes, oh no, you were absolutely fine. I was like, oh, good talk, good talk. That made me feel better.
As somebody who plays like 10 bricks in their funny fire deck, I am the main, person who says I wish this card in my hand were different.
Hmm.
Yeah. But you've been piloting voiceless. You took voiceless voice to YCS Indy, made day two. You've been piloting this deck for a very very long time, and the deck has run its course in the sense of it started as this deck where you just normal summon low or you normal summon divine or do your combo, and you end up board on like two back row or like your two face up cards, your Skull Guardian, your low, and then like maybe Cerebus, depending on if you get stopped or not. And then it went through the changes of maybe you want to play Branded Fusion, go into Albion, and then send Jowgen, and then bring back the Jowgen or something like that. And then it moved on to you're gonna activate Ostinato and have a huge emblem if you don't get interrupted. You end up taking pure Voiceless Voice. What are your thoughts on just the deck in general? We obviously have Infinite Forbidden coming up in a week or two for Nats. What is that deck's placement right now versus um post info? And what are your thoughts on the couple different styles of voiceless voice we have seen in the past couple weeks?
So right now, as far as voiceless sits, it's definitely, in my opinion, top three decks. It's definitely not the best. We can all sit and say we know Fire's the best deck.
Mhm.
If you catch me on some bullshit and feeling myself, I'll tell you it's the best deck, and I don't know what you're doing. Not normal summon and low, but realistically, is not the best deck. Uh, as far as post info goes, it's gonna be a struggle, and I hate saying that, um, because it is post info. You're really gonna be struggling playing that deck. Every deck has just gotten faster with the inclusion of the Fiendsmith engine. And naturally, me being me, I'm gonna sit down and see, all right, how do I make this Fiendsmith engine work in voiceless? What
Yeah.
can we do here? It's you're really trying to get it to work on that. Um, and it's not going to be the look. I'll sit here and say full honesty, uh, it will take somebody to really figure out how to make that deck work. Like sit down and really figure it out. And honestly, it's probably not going to be the look for Nats. And that person's not going to be me because I truly think right now, if you're not using a Fiendsmith engine in some capacity, you're probably not going to perform well at Nats. Which I hate saying. I hate saying. Um, but before that, like you said, we've seen a lot of the iterations of the different voiceless decks, be it Ostinato, Melodious version, or the branded. Um, None of those are as good as Pure, in my opinion. They all do something well, but they're not Pure. They don't do what Pure does.
Mhm.
Um, Reason for that is like Ostinato, Melodious version. It falls to the issue of having too many normal summons, to the point you're actually having to cut um, low down to two.
Yep.
Some people even go to one, which I can understand. Like even in branded, you can make the argument, low needs to be at 2. I can even say, and if you're feeling yourself, you can probably make the argument that low can be at 2 and pure. I don't think I'd ever do that, but I can say you could probably make an argument. I don't think you can do that for a deck with so many normal summons when Diviner and the level 4 Melodious monster whose name is escaping me right now.
Refrain. Yep.
Refrain, yes. I don't think you can do that in a meta where both of those are needed to be at 3 of. So I truly think it's it's impossible to play, or not impossible. I don't think that version is the best because of all of that. But like the end boards are so much more explosive, so much added to it that is just makes it so good. Like the end boards you can end on are just absolutely absurd.
This is pure or is this
Um,
melodious?
Melodious.
Yeah.
Like the melodious end boards are just insane. But you're also losing out on your non-engine because of that. And your non-engine is really the bread and butter at the end of the day.
I was
That's
always
what
of the assumption where your pure deck became the most consistent. It also allowed you to play the most non-engine, but it also suffered from your end board wasn't as strong as the other two variants. But then the other two variants, killed your consistency. B, if you're playing branded, you got locked into fusions, in which case you couldn't go Dynamundo to set up another back row, or you're playing Melodious where hey, if something gets stopped, again, you're playing way too many normal summons. I ran into so many situations where I saw, like, I actually had a hand at the Philly Regional, the last one that was here, where I had Refrain, Diviner, low in my hand. I'm like, I can't play the game because if one of them gets stopped, then I just have 200 cards in my hand that don't do anything. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I still think that Pure is, especially in the format where we were in, where there were more hand traps. I thought that, um, and I mean, we're still going to be in a format with a lot of hand traps. I always thought that the pure variant lost harder in the sense that because it was always going for one form of play, it lost harder to the hand trap versus a variant that had multiple play lines and could maybe play around hand traps more than the pure variant.
Um, I definitely like can understand that logic and theory. Um, the thing is with the pure version, um, it was kind of, how do I put this? It never lost it lost more to itself than anything. And this is where like you really need to get the best build of that deck for it to perform well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the reason I say that it loses to itself more often than not is because your deck is full of half bricks, as I like to call them. So, uh, Skull Guardian, perfect example, right? Skull Guardian's not a brick, if we're being honest with each other.
Yep.
However, um, if you do not see it with any way to play the game, it is one of the biggest bricks in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a level 7 that does nothing. Um, the ritual spell isn't necessarily a
Fuck
brick.
that card. I hate the rituals. I opened that card so
well,
many times.
well, that's the thing. It's like as a pure like playing the pure engine, I don't mind opening that card too much. Because it really does let you play through hands that you really shouldn't win because you opened that card.
Yeah.
So I really, you really lost yourself more often to the deck being the deck because of like having all of those half bricks. So you could lose to one hand trap sometimes, or you could just lose to none, no matter what. But
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh itself, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And in the hand
Um,
trap format, it's always my least favorite part about hand trap formats because you're stuffing so much non-engine into a deck, and then you can just see cards and hands that just don't do enough for you because you have three hand traps, one engine card, and like maybe like a board breaker or something like that, and then your opponent stops the one thing, and it's like I can't play, but then they can't play on their turn, so then it becomes more of a top deck war. And I think
yeah.
Voices is one of those decks, especially with the inclusion of Ghost Ogre in the format. I forget why. oh, Tenpai. People were playing for Tenpai and Sangen, even though they don't even use the Sangen effect anymore, and we're still
Oh
playing Ghost
god.
Ogre. It really definitely hurts Voiceless Voice harder when Ghost Ogre gets included because that spell
For
card is
sure.
insane. Both of them are insane, and the track.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I I like I said, even when Ghost Ogre became one of those cards you saw all the time when someone was playing, when that became into the meta, um, I didn't think the deck suffered as much as it did when we saw when we saw when we're going to see the Fiendsmith come in. Like I think right now, even with Ogre being, you know, pretty prominent with people playing Tenpai, I truly don't think like the deck is suffering is has a hard time keeping up because of
yeah.
Ghost Ogre being in the format. What it will have trouble with is the whole Fiendsmith engine. But before I move off of this one part to that, I have to say this: the branded version, and I can't stress this enough, is dog water.
I also think the branded version sucks. I
I
played against
tell
that a
people
couple of
all the time,
times.
don't play it.
So I have a funny story for you. I was at YCS Indy, and I choke every time I get
Mhm.
to a high table. I'm 3-0, and I get placed at table 1, round 4. And I'm like,
Oh
I'm
no.
crazy. And I'm against this Tenpai player. I make a board. He beats it. He actually played like a really weird variant where he like he didn't OTK. He went like Bestial Disc Pattern, the Ruddy Rose Dragon, and like he stalled for a
Hmm.
turn and then killed you the turn after. But he got me
Okay.
game 1. And then game 2, I was so psyched in my own head. I completely forgot I didn't make the Melodious combo, so I went like full ritual combo. I end on like two ritual monsters and no low. I overlay for Absolute Dragon to go Vortex, and so I have a board of like Vortex Ceravis, and the dude's
Hmm.
like, "So can I see your extra deck?" And I'm like, "Why does he want to see my extra deck?" So I fan it out for him, and then he goes to play his turn. He activates something. I say negate, and I'm like, "Oh, I am supposed to shuffle. There's always a pendulum monster there," and I just made the worst
Hmm.
play possible. Just get shit on outright because of that.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
yeah. I was so in my head that I'm like, normally I make a Melodious combo, but it didn't happen, and yeah, very fun. And then downhill spiral from there for like,
Oh
um.
no. You hate to see it. You
Yeah.
hate to see it.
But I'm gonna lie, I was laughing the entire match. Like, as soon as he asked, I'm like, I can't get mad at that kind of stuff because I'm not the best player when it comes to Yugioh, but it's just that kind of shit that, like, makes me go off the wall. Like, I'm so bad. But, so we had, we had YCS Indy. After YCS Indy, the United States obviously took a break. Obviously, we're getting ready for Nats. But we had European nationals that came. Did you watch any Euro nationals? I think it was German and I think it was the UK. Or there were two nationals that were happening in that time.
Yeah, I kept up to date with all the nationals
Okay.
going on. Mainly because I needed to see how well I really wanted to see how well Voiceless held up. That
God,
was my
and
biggest concern.
I don't think it did all too well.
I
Um,
know.
but
That's the sad.
did you see? I believe it was the German nationals. They did a pie chart or a bar graph about the top 5 most represented decks, right? So, and this is at the entire event, and this is post uh, a Legacy of Destruction. And in that top 5 categories of decks, Tempai was not in any of it. Tempai was not in the top 5 most popular decks.
I
What
can
are your
believe that.
thoughts on the Tempai deck in the sense that this deck was? I personally don't like Tempai. I think it ruins.
Hmm.
I actually think that deck compared to Snake Eye is ruining the local scene in Yu-Gi-Oh because it's so sacky in the sense that it makes people not want to play. It becomes so I drew the call. I drew Sang and Summoning. You can't play now. I get it. It doesn't matter what board you make. But I think at a regional level, it's acceptable. At regional and nationals and YCS level, it's acceptable because people know how to play around it. But what are your thoughts on the Tempai deck? Why it kind of just like why it just isn't relevant anymore?
So I don't know if you follow the spreadsheet that is posted on Zodiac frequently.
I see it. I
Um,
don't pay attention to it.
so I follow it pretty religiously to the point like I want not just like for my own personal dex performance, but it's also because I want to see what non-engine people are playing, not to so that I can, use it, but also know to play around it. Especially that's like how we knew Metal Runners came into play. Um, so at the national level, we kind of saw Tenpai not performing as well, but when it came to the regional level, it was really popular
Yeah,
because of that whole, regional and local. There's not too much difference in my opinion, to be honest with you, but it's an easier deck to play at those events. Um, I think it's because people realize that it is not that good of a deck, and I think Tenpai, while I think I have a love-hate relationship with it because one, I love the fact that it's very cheap
yeah,
and it gave a lot of players who wanted to play competitively an option to play that wasn't Snake Eyes or anything else that could compete with these decks if you played it right and if you had the proper non-engine stuff. You didn't have to spend too much money outside of asking your friend for a Trident Dragon.
mhm,
But on that same sense, I think it's unhealthy for the game that a deck like this exists as far as going second, kill you on that turn, or I lose kind of thing.
yeah,
Like I think having a going second deck is healthy for the format in the sense of it gives you an option to like, perfect example, Sky Striker, right? A lot of people play Sky Striker going second. Um, they benefit way more from board breakers and stuff like that because of having spells in their graveyard. But they don't, unless they open like very, very specific hand, they're not killing you turn one.
yeah,
And I think a deck like that is healthier for the game. Like you have a good option for going second. And I'm not saying this as I used to play striker. I've never played the deck before in my life. Um, but having a deck there, its whole concept is I'm killing you on my first turn, which is me going second, or I'm not winning. And if you make me go first, I literally make one of the weakest boards possible and pray to God it's enough. And I hate that. I
one
think
of
it's so bad.
one of my favorite parts about Tenpai is game 2 and 3, and I hope that it gets fixed in the sense of either Tenpai dies when you get a new deck, or either Tenpai gets better but Sangan leaves. But I love the mind game that can happen during siding in the Tenpai matchup. Because either, you lose game one, you can either force them to go first, or the deck's better going second, but if you make them go first, they sign Heat Waves, Floodgates, the other thing, or you mind game them, they think they're going second, and they sign in more War Breakers, more hand traps, and then they kill you anyway. I actually like that concept in the game, because I think the game is so stagnant in the sense of, you go first, then I'm gonna go first, and I'm gonna go first, and whoever wins is that whoever loses game one, or whoever wins game one is always at an advantage, because they then have 2 games of going first. Or whoever,
Yeah.
yeah, whoever was first wins. And very similar to Lord Khan, whoever was first just is always at a higher, win ratio. But I
Hmm.
very much like that aspect of the Tenpai deck in mind gaming you, and even if they lose, they might go first. They might sign in the Heat Waves Prosperity for it, or yeah, I think they can do that.
Yeah, they
Prosperity
can.
for it and just do it. Yeah, I think that's very cool, and I hope it comes back to either a different deck or a different Tenpai without the field spell, because obviously everything is in the field spell. That is what makes the deck so
Yeah,
non-interactive.
I hate the card so freaking much,
Yeah.
man.
The deck
Um,
aside from it is fine.
yeah. I do understand like the mind game in the sense and liking that whole, am I going first? Am I going second? I actually when I made my deck for Indy, at least my side deck, um, I practiced like my siding patterns and make sure I liked everything and had everything for a specific matchup. For that event, I was siding 3 talents so that um, they were always good going first,
Yep.
and I would always side them in going first. But if I played against, say, Tenpai, if I played against Tenpai, and I it was one of those situations where like, well, you don't know which one you're going to go because it's Tenpai. Um, I would always side in those 3 talents regardless. I would also side in 3D Berry regardless. Um, if I didn't know what they were going to make me do, because if they make me go first, right? Well, I've got talents and D Berry in my
Yeah.
deck. I'm fine. If they make me go second, the board that they end on is so bad.
Seals pass.
yeah, Seals Pass. Like, yeah, Seals Pass 2024.
Yeah.
How's that working out for you, son? Okay, maybe we'll add a Fenrir in there and get a little crazy. Um, so yeah, like even a Fenrir Seals Pass, like in I remember back during cash tier formats, we in the mirror match we would make people go make our opponents go second because it was just easier to break the board with cards like talents and stuff. So having a talents going second against the deck is just good enough, and
Yeah.
you're gonna probably win anyway.
And if you have
Also,
D
Voiceless has
barrier,
an insane matchup.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, if you have D barrier as well, it doesn't matter if they make you go first or second because they can't kill you going first, and then you just set it, and then you get them
Yep.
on the rack around. See, I wish I knew that tech in the cashier mirror because the unmatched regional, I kept going first, and I kept getting my board broken. I never understood why. I think if I had
Hmm.
done the opposite, I might have gotten in. I might have snuck in top 8 there. But yeah, I never thought it that far ahead in that regard. Um,
I played only one cash tier mirror match all day at Unmatched. I think I played like 8 different decks at
I
Unmatched.
played 5, and somehow I won 4 of them going first.
What?
Yeah, it's just that last round. The last round that would have secured my third place. My opponent opened up Fenrir or something,
Hmm.
Lance and Talons or something. Like it was just like the exact 4 cards he needed to beat. And
Yeah.
it included Lance and Talons.
Hmm.
I love how a card like Lance comes back, but so
Yeah. Oh god, that was my favorite card of the whole deck. That and
yeah.
Book of Moon.
Hopefully, Book of
Um.
Eclipse and Book of Moon don't come back because it stops the FTK. But I hear people are
Yeah.
playing it for Fiendsmith for that board.
Yeah. People
Um,
are. It seems like people are back on Book of Eclipse, which I'm a fan of. I love that card. Um. Yeah, but yeah, I only played against one Cashier mirror match that whole day. It was against Enzo Fialos in like the last round of Swiss, and I scraped him game one, game two. He's like, "You go first." I made a Rise Heart pass, or set like 3 pass, and my friend had taken a picture because this was actually my first, my first ever top. And he took a picture, and it showed Enzo's hand, and he had 2 lava golems in his hand, and not like no others. It was like 2 lava golems, Book of Moon, uh, Theosis, Birth, and like something else awful. And I was like, ah, yes, the duality of this deck.
hey, I was on the Theosis, like I was on the main 3 Theosis hate train for like 6 months. It's like play 2 Theosis and nobody played 2 Theosis, but like I hated that card. Even I played 2 of it, I drew 2 of it. But
I didn't mind drawing two of it sometimes. I always played three. I was for that for the longest time I was on the don't play Book of Eclipse train because I thought it
oh,
was bad. And then I told people, and then I told it to everyone, and then the day before that regional, I put 3 Book of Eclipse and 3 Book of Moon in my dating deck, and they were like, "Why did you tell us opposite?" I was like, "I'm sorry, I was being slow. What do you want from me?"
I was on Book of Lunar Eclipse. I don't know why I was on that card. For some reason, it sounded good. Yeah, it hit more
What
cards than
was
Book
it?
of Moon. It's the one where you discard 1 and you flip 2. And
But was
for
it good though?
no,
Okay,
but there was a
okay.
reason in my head why I thought it was good, and I couldn't tell you what the reasoning was, but it sounded good in the head, and then it didn't work. Um, so Tempai, obviously weak deck in Euro Nationals. Do you know what deck was very very strong at the Euro Nationals?
Oh, don't say the plant deck.
The Plant deck,
I fucking
played
hate
by
that deck.
Jessica Robinson and some other guy who I don't know. And I actually watched a half an hour of the Jessica Robinson 2.5 hour video about how to play plants, and I still couldn't tell you what
Nope,
the cards do.
nope.
Um,
Don't want to know.
so I mean, but what are your thoughts on? Honestly, this deck seems kind of crazy. The fact that 60 card pile, you can play the hand trust, you can play the board breakers, and every card, like many, many, many combinations of cards, get you to a full board that other decks just can't compete with because nobody's on board. Like, just quick thoughts on the
Um,
deck. I personally don't like the deck. I hate Solitaire, even though I play the FTK. But this deck is even more Solitaire because it's like a 10-minute combo. It's the actual combos that people hate that take forever and then end on this board.
I think the plant deck is bad and it only performs there for the reason of no one knows for 2 reasons. One, somehow no one knows how to play against that deck.
Yep.
But two, that because they get so little events, people are only practicing what they're told is the best decks,
Got it.
such as like Fire, Voiceless, Tempai, that they don't actually take the time to learn what these other decks do, and they don't deserve to win at that point. No discredit to the people who do play that deck. Jessica Robinson, she's absolutely insane with the deck.
Insane, yeah.
Watching her play, but then you also look at of course, nerves get to a person at this stage. But last year when she won Nats, the homie had literal game on board. All he had to do was not mess up his attack, and he messed up his attack and let her win.
Yeah.
And she knew she lost. He knew she should have lost, but she didn't lose. And I was like, all right, so this is why we let this deck win.
I mean, to be
And
honest, the round prior was a round against Labyrinth, where he set 5 and she opened up Harvey's Feather Duster in top 4
I mean,
for
yeah.
game 3. Like, come on now. But, yeah, I just think that the deck has evolved, and I think the Ragnarok stuff is all really cool. But, I mean, I think that I love decks that play all these multiple engines and they allow for branded as well, where you're not so focused on, again, I don't like 15 18 hand trap formats, and I like that these decks exist where you're just trying to just vomit all the cards on the board, and you have this crazy combo. And I'm personally a decent, I'm not, again, I don't like the 10-minute combo, but
Hmm.
like the concept. um did you see any of the? I mean, just a quick branch off. Did you watch the Oceanic National? It was
Uh,
branded versus Snake Eye FTK with the
I
amazing.
I caught the couple. I caught the first two games. I didn't even watch the third game.
I think that is one of the. Again, you brought up the point of people don't get enough events over there, so they don't know, what's good. That is one of the events where I can definitely believe that, because I watched that finals. It felt very misplay heavy, and like just things were not happening correctly. That maybe it's just as they get so little events. And um but hey, seeing Snake Eye FTK was really cool.
Yeah, I also think um, a lot of that does come down to nerves. You're in the finals. If I'm watching the finals of an event, I never expect them to play well or 100%
Yeah,
perfectly. Like we sit here saying like we think they should, and honestly, if you've made it this far, you probably should be playing 100% perfectly. But it's the finals of this major event that you're already like guaranteed going to Worlds. And you're just trying to win that trophy, and there's no way you're not sitting there absolutely shaking playing your cardboard.
yeah.
So
Unless you're somebody
I get it.
yeah, unless you're Urena or Pack or Steven Santoli or one of these players who are on stream or on feature match like 3 times every YCS, and you have this, you know, you're just used to being on stage. Like anybody, like everybody can just mess up. Like, definitely those nerves get to you. Um, I feel like
Yeah.
they maybe favor people getting feature matches over some other people, but I would love to everybody get that kind of experience and know what it's like to be on that stage. Um,
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's good for somebody, if especially if like somebody wants to take this game any form seriously. Um, do what you can to if you're somebody who has a deck that's somewhat quote unquote interesting and you want to get on a feature match, or you want the experience, go for it. Always go for it. Because that the experience you get from being on the main stage and having people watch you play is you need it. You need
yeah,
to feel it. And honestly, like when you get up there and you see people watching you, it's nerve-wracking. Um, but when you sit down and play your cardboard, it's the most secluded game of Yu-Gi-Oh you'll ever play, even when people are watching you. It's weird. It's a
it's an
weird
awesome
way
feeling
to put
too.
it.
It's like yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of surreal in the sense like, and again, Yu-Gi-Oh is so niche in the sense like Twitch has 1,500 viewers. That's still 1,500 people that you didn't have watching you before at the locals.
Yep.
Yeah, just really really cool. So we are now moving into you know it's the Euro Nationals happen, YCS Indy happen. Now in 2 weeks we have Nats in Texas
Yep.
for the Americas, or for North America.
Yep.
So now here's the main question for you. do you think that Infinite Forbidden should be allowed at this tournament? Obviously, we know it is allowed. Very similar to how when YCS Indy last year when Age of Overlord came out and Rescue Ace was so popular, that was the day of that release. I
Yeah.
do think that there is a huge difference between a YCS, even though it's still a huge event, and the biggest event of the year for the region.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between the two, obviously. So I have a bit of a weird take at this.
Okay, hit me.
Um, I don't think it's bad that we have a set come out for that people are going to be like that comes out the day of the major event or the week of the major event or whatever. I don't think that's bad. Um, in the sense of it's an undiscovered format, and especially at something like Nats, right? We don't know what the best. Okay, let me put this because Indy is actually a better
Yeah.
example
Hey, we know
because
what the best deck's gonna be,
we
but we
we
don't
know
know
what
what's
the
gonna
best
be.
we know what the best deck's going to be. We don't know what the best build's going to be. But I love it in the sense for at least um with YCS Indy was no one really had the meta completely figured out. Like if you look at the metas between YCS Indy and YCS Richmond, they were two different they were two different formats. You had two different pie charts, and people really like learned the meta better between those times, and we used that information we had gotten from Indy to help fuel that change.
Yep.
So I think, especially moving into the national tournament, um, putting people in the situation saying, "Hey, you need to learn. It's now come time for you to show. I want you to show me that you know how to make a deck better than anyone. You've done the work. You've figured this stuff out, and you've put in the work to win. Like you've put in that work to solve the meta, and came in with the best build possible. I love that. So I don't have a problem with Nats having info legal. However, and that's where I might change. However, it is criminal
Yep.
to have the set that is so meta defining come out and then have it be the rarities that they are. So like yes, I that's the same issue that Indy had, SP Little Knight,
Mhm.
Wanted, Diabellistar, all of them secret rares. All of them high ticket cards. You had to get them. I literally went to two people, asked, "Can I borrow your SP Little Knight?" Because I was playing Pot of Extrav, I was playing Labyrinth at the event, I played two. So I was like, I needed two. So I was like, I needed two cards, two of a card that was $150 a piece at one point. That's absurd.
Yep.
Like that's criminal. Like they know what they're doing. They know they're making this so that they can sell the most product in the world. And I get it, but I hate that. I hate that that's what they've done to make it so that they are selling their product, making the best. I don't mind the best cards being higher rarity. I
Yeah.
don't mind that. Like it makes opening the packs worth it to a point. But when you're making it so the cards are higher rarity right before an event, Jesus, that's you're putting so much work on people to get these cards, and then uh perform with them. It's just I hate that part.
And remember, you can't buy cards at the event from non-vendors. That you would
Oh,
never
of
do
course.
that.
Yeah, no,
What do you
absolutely
think
not.
Engraver is gonna be? It's pre-sold for $95 and it's sold out right now. I think it hits $175 for that. It's like that Friday. It will be $175. I think it will be.
Um,
Card's so fucking nutty. Like I think the spell card and the links might be like $60-$50 a piece. But I think that card, which is a three of, and
the
unlike
spell
and
might be worth more now,
oh
honestly.
yes, yeah, because the new I just saw the TCG exclusives are crazy.
Yep.
But like so even during YSS Indie last year, you know that was like the lowest point for Wanted. Wanted was like $45 during that event, like that Saturday, because people
Yep.
thought tier limit was good. Or no, not Unchained. yeah, people thought that other decks that didn't play the engine were fine. But unlike this, we know that Fiendsmith is insane. I think it hits 175 apiece on Engraver.
It's hard to
That's
say because part of me wants to say, yeah, you're right, it'll hit 175 around that ballpark area because it's because it's everyone needs this
yeah.
card for the event. There's no way you don't play this card. But part of me also wants to be hopeful and really, really
Nope.
wants to be hopeful
Nope. 150.
that
Take it or leave it.
part of me wants to be hopeful in the fact that people will open so much of this product that there will be an overabundance of the product, such as Ghosts from the Past 2, right? Ghost rares, things like that. Cards were, 10, $20,
Yeah.
such as Aliber. And now eventually within like a few days they became next to nothing. A ghost rare that could have been worth, $100 was worth $30 not that much long afterwards because of the overabundance of it. But the secondary market with wanting to get these cards for nats is insane.
Mhm.
Like I know so many people going in on cases right before to have a case ready for them right before the event. So like, all right, well, hopefully they get it. But now, yeah, what bothers me the most is the fact that the spell card's a secret. Like we knew
Yeah.
Engraver was going to be in secret, and I didn't mind that too much. But because the freaking TCG exclusive fusion, um, if your deck can fit it, it makes a free rank 6. Now, it helps you make a free rank 6. It doesn't go full Fiendsmith
Yeah.
combo. To have a, I think it's renamed now as Sequence, not Sequentia. So you don't have Sequence up right away with the rank 6, which kind of hurts it as far as going full Snake Eye combo. But if you didn't need to go full Snake Eye combo, like let's say if your deck just needs that Beatrice or Foolish Burial, or you just want to have a guaranteed Wave King before you go into your full combo, that's insane. It's
Yeah.
just so good. If your deck can afford to fit the room, extra decks, and this is actually, again, goes back to my point of I'm happy to see these newer sets come out before big events to see who is going to show that they've done the work and done the research. Um, the extra decks are going to be so
Completely different.
limited and tight.
Yeah.
It's like I right now already have trouble. I've been testing Yubel out past couple of weeks, and I've gone back and forth of what I want in the extra deck for just right now because there's so many options the deck can make. You can even go Princess in this deck. But with the new set coming out and having Tractus
Yeah.
turn into a free rank 6, there's so many options. It really comes down to how well did you do your research and your practice. But again, that's just going to cause Tractus to cost way more, which just bothers me
Yeah.
before an event that big.
Uh, just kind of insane. I think. I mean, me. I think we covered just in favor in general. I think that the Fiendsmith. Fiendsmith engine's really cool. You know who's like? I think Whitewood's players are actually gonna profit a lot. Like starting like 2 weeks after the set comes out because everybody's gonna be so locked in on Fiendsmith. The Whitewood cards are gonna go under the radar. Super like cheap to pick up, maybe like 10. I don't know how. I didn't look into the engine at all or the deck, but I think that those players will definitely be happy with the set where their secrets are worth less in retrospect. And then once Snake Eye gets hit, then they're off to the races. And then
Yeah.
similarly to I forget what other cards are there, but yeah, I mean there's the Modolce, there's the Tempai card. I don't know if that Tempai card makes the deck any better doing what
It
it already
definitely makes it. It
does.
definitely makes it. It definitely adds a lot of strength to it.
Poplar.
It's a poplar. It's poplar.
Yeah.
But um, I I think it makes the deck better for sure. I don't think it makes the deck able to compete with the deck that is Fiendsmith Snake Eye. Like I've told people, if you're not playing Fiendsmith in your deck, you're not winning. You're not going to compete well at Nats. And if you're playing a deck that has Fiendsmith and not Snake Eye cards, it's an uphill battle. Good luck.
Hey, I'm just gonna. I hope that every Snake Eye player that doesn't pick up Fiendsmith knows that I'm playing it in a much worse fire deck. They can be sad about that.
I love that.
So we have three.
Make me
There's.
feel bad.
When Agov came out, I was playing. I wasn't playing Rescue Ace. I was playing Volcanic Shell,
Oh
summoning that.
god.
So there's three topics I want to touch on. Very big drama points in the EU community that have happened recently. Maybe over the past like 2 or 3 months. The first thing is price of Yu-Gi-Oh. So the big thing, and that was actually might be more than 2 or 3 months ago. This was around prior to Rarity 1 because all of the staple cards were worth a lot of money and things were getting reprinted. And then Rarity 1 came out. Oh yeah, also Snake Eye was $1,200. But post Rarity 1, Snake Eye went to like I did the math. It was like a $400 deck. It was actually relatively cheap, especially with the fear of the ban list. And then Rarity 2 came out, and cards just went down even more. So if we were to neglect Infinite Forbidden, just push it off to the side with your $500 Fiendsmith engine. Do you think, and I personally think that we are in the healthiest Yu-Gi-Oh like the healthiest financial Yu-Gi-Oh time period, ignoring Infinite Forbidden. Did you know?
Ignoring Infinite Forbidden.
Did you know that the second most expensive deck when I did my money calculation was Kashtira? It was Snake Eye at like $400, and it was Kashtira at like 250 or something like that. And this was my apologies. This was prior to Yubel, the Terminal Revenge set. I think Yubel is up there now, and also Chimera, but that deck is kind of shit. So it's like Yubel might actually be the most expensive deck right now, over Snake Eye. But I think we're in a
Um
very healthy financial standpoint.
yeah, I don't here's my thing. I've always said this as far as like the cost of this game goes. I think when it comes to your newer cards, your archetype cards, your Fiend Smiths, if that was just an archetype and not a whole engine that every deck has to play. Um, your Snake Eyes, things like that. I think cards like that, it's okay that they're a bit more expensive because, I mean, they should be. They're new
Yep,
cards. It's, that's what you should expect them to be. You should expect to pay money. Like it's like, what's the point of getting new stuff if they're not going to be worth a little something and be good? I think having cards that are mandatory for every deck, such as your Effect Veilers, Ash Blossoms, Imperms, all those cards that are just mandatory to play. If you're not playing them, you're probably not playing the game. I think having those cards cost back when they were, impossible to get. You had to pay 30s to 35s for common Ash Blossoms at one point. Um, that's absurd. Like
yep,
I want to make I want your deck I want it to be approachable for every person as far as like the cost of getting into the game. It's how you attract new players. Um, so I agree. Like it was definitely a healthier price for it because Rarity Collection 2 really did help out. Even though, there are some decks or some cards in there like Pot of Prosperity as a super or like its ultras was worth less than the super, but like the ultras like $4 or $5. You know, that's good because it's not expensive to get a playset of Pot of Prosperities now. You know, you can you can spend easily probably like what, $60, $70, get all the staples you need
yep.
from that and call it a day from over the two Rarity collections.
And on
And
release of Rarity 1 and Rarity 2, you could have gotten them for like $30. But people are stupid and they sell, they pull an Ash Blossom, they sell it. They pull I think the most criminal card is Forbidden Droplet. I think that card is insane. That card was like $1 or 50 cents, and people just sell, 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 and now it's like $4 or $5 a piece. And if that card ever
yep,
becomes really, really good again, you're looking at $12 super rare from Rarity 1. And people are going to complain again about how staples are so expensive. But I completely agree with you because I'm in the same situation. In 2012, 2013, like Mermails, Fire Fists, Dragon Rule. Okay, Draco Sack was a little bit different, but your spell books,